Hey everybody, it's John Pollock alongside Jimmy Korderas, and this is our preview of WWE Extreme Rules, which is coming up Sunday night from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. If you're going to go to New Jersey, Jimmy, it better be for a good reason. Is Extreme Rules a good reason?
Yeah, I think so. Judging from what we got at Payback between AJ Styles and Roman Reigns, I predict that they're going to pretty much knock it out of the park again. I think they're going to have a really good match. So
yeah, this is pay-per-view number 2 for this feud, and I have to say, I don't feel like it's run its course. To me, it's been the best feud that's been laid out, where week after week they are doing very good storytelling with this. You don't quite know where AJ Styles fits in with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, and I think that it's got people's interest, and I think you're going to get a really good match, just as we did a few weeks back at Payback. Absolutely,
and you know, you wonder sometimes how AJ Styles would adapt to what everybody seems to call the WWE style, and I think he's adapted just fine. I mean, like, there might be some minor tweaks to his presentation, but other than that, he's pretty much done what he does. And I think Roman Reigns has done his best work post-WrestleMania that he's done so far as a singles. So, and these guys, you know, have a chemistry that kind of works. You know, they both play off each other. Their timing is very good.
No styles clash between the two.
See, you can't write this stuff. It just comes out.
Usually they come out late, Jimmy.
Yeah.
We're firing on all cylinders
that's
today.
That's a Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirt. Anyways, cheap plug there for somebody. But yeah, I like where this is going. And like you said, I wouldn't be opposed to even a third match at the next pay-per-view.
Well, you look ahead, and the next event is Money in the Bank, which is kind of, in the sense, a lame duck event for your WWE title match, because whoever the challenger is, it's not somebody that's going to be in that ladder match going for the future title opportunity. So to me, it would make sense that maybe you want to extend this another month. I guess the challenge in that is that the way this is structured on Sunday with the Extreme Rules stipulation, you do need a winner in this. I don't think you can go off with any kind of no contest, and that would be 2 months in a row Roman Reigns beats this guy. But there's ways around it. There could certainly be a way to get to a third match at Money in the Bank. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, because I think that, all things considered, this post-WrestleMania program for Roman Reigns, you couldn't have asked for anything better, because I think that's always a big struggle with a new champion that some people have not been sold on, is that first post-Mania program.
Right. Usually, and we've seen it before, where there's a bridge program to get into the next thing. We haven't got that at all with AJ Styles, and if that was what it was meant to be to begin with, I think they I don't want to say struck lightning in a bottle, but they actually got something that they maybe weren't expecting. And going further, I think this, like you said, going into the finish of this match at the pay-per-view, I think it can be worked out, like you said, where AJ Styles has a moral conflict, because the lead up to this match, Roman Reigns hasn't been either a babyface or a heel. If you want to really break it down, technically he's been acting more heel-ish. But AJ Styles, conversely, has not been acting like a babyface either. It's almost like two strong personalities, and neither one of them a babyface or a heel, just have an issue with each other and want to fight, and it's working.
Yeah, so, I mean, you look at Sunday here, I think that they will have all the opportunity to have an excellent main event. Will probably be allotted a lot of time, and they pretty much told you that you're going to get run-ins in this match with the Usos and then Gallows and Anderson, who are tentatively, it looks like, scheduled for a tornado match. At least that seems to be the word coming out of the SmackDown tapings. What have you thought of the involvement of the secondary members here, the Usos, Anderson, and Gallows as well, because they've been all over this program as well?
I like it. I like the interactions. I liked... other than the fact that every time I hear them mention the club, I keep thinking about that thing that locks your steering wheel.
Yeah, you're wondering if you locked your car.
Yeah, exactly. A name change will be coming, I think, down the road. We can speculate what kind of club it may be eventually, but that's for a future broadcast for us. But I like the involvement.
The Corbin Club, right?
That doesn't have the same ring to it. There's got to be a different guy out there, someone from NXT. I don't know.
We were talking about this Sunday on the Law. Are you clubbed out? Because we've certainly got a proliferation of clubs in many different organizations across the board.
Yes and no. I mean, like, I get it, because it seems to be the hot property right now to have a club of some sort, whether it's a family club using the Usos and Roman Reigns, or the former Bullet Club, now just the club. Other than the name change, other than hopefully a name change coming, I don't have a problem with it because it's almost like a throwback to the era when you had the Four Horsemen, you had the Varsity Club, you had all these different you had DOA, you had those Boricuas. Yeah, I'm throwing that one.
The good old days.
The good old days, where just everybody belonged to a group and there were like little cliques everywhere.
As we move on down the card, we are also going to get an Asylum cage match involving Chris Jericho and Dean Ambrose, where this looks to be a steel cage match, but there are weapons, Jimmy, such as mops and potted plants and straitjackets that all can be utilized within this match. What have you thought about this program? This, to me, is the most polarizing one because I think left to their own devices, I think this would have been a much more serious build-up. I think this has gone way off at times into the comedy direction, and I think these two have had to overcome a lot. And I think that you go back to the Mitch angle. That, to me, is when all the tongue-in-cheek jokes of this should have ended. He knocks out Dean Ambrose, and suddenly this becomes a big blood feud. He knocks out Dean Ambrose. Instead, the announcers really treated it like comedy, and to me, it's been the guys on their promos that have tried to kind of harness things in to make this a serious program, building up to a cage match. But I think they have gone off the rails at different parts during this particular program.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, there were times where it's like it starts building up to a spot where you like where it's going, but then it takes a step back. And then they kind of regroup and they start going back in that direction you'd like to see them go, especially with Dean Ambrose, because the biggest, I don't even want to call it a complaint, the biggest issue I had with the whole Dean Ambrose character being the lunatic fringe was when he came down with the hot dog carts and the exploding suitcases or briefcases and stuff like that. The only thing missing was a watermelon and a sledgehammer. The whole Gallagher thing. And I didn't like that Dean Ambrose. When he started to get like the unpredictable, crazy, you don't know where this guy's going and what he might do next, that's the Dean Ambrose I like. And Chris Jericho has done his best to kind of, like you talked about this before we started taping here, trying to corral it back into a more serious direction. But every time that happens, it sort of takes another right turn back into almost like a comedy kind of thing, like you said. And the first reaction I had when that cage was coming down, I thought, okay, Asylum cage kind of makes sense. But then when I saw all the weaponry and the straitjackets the first thing that popped into my head was a Good Housekeeping match. I was looking for a kitchen sink and an ironing board, didn't see it.
Well, we got an isolated shot of the potted plant. I think how serious can you take this? And to me, I go back to that Raw where he smashes it over Dean's head. And the announcers, they just used it as an excuse to get in all their jokes about Mitch, and it was just played for comedy. Yeah. And then you go to SmackDown that week, and Chris Jericho does this promo saying, this is not funny. I hit this guy with a blunt object and put him in the hospital. And it was like he was doing the job the announcers should have done on the Monday. And at the time, I compared it to what's the most famous tag team breakup angle you recall in the WWF?
The most famous one?
To a tag team that breaks up on television.
There were so many of them.
Well, I'm going to lead you into this one. That would be the Rockers to me, of Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, the barbershop angle. And that's remembered as this great split. And you look at the setup for that. Here these guys are in a barbershop with Brutus Beefcake. And if Bobby Heenan was simply thinking of himself, he could have just told a bunch of hair-cutting jokes, and as Marty's thrown through the glass, Bobby Heenan could have played that for comedy, but neither of them did because this was a serious angle. And there was no comedy attached to that, even though the setting just screamed ridiculous if you're watching this in a bubble, not understanding the context. And I think the same applies here, where the announcers, at that moment, this is no longer some goofy plant with a name. This is a guy that's just been concussed on television from a sucker shot here from Chris Jericho, and now this is a blood feud that's going to culminate in a cage match. But instead, it's like this has just been a chance to, it's wacky Dean Ambrose that is, I think it's just carte blanche that they can throw all these wild ideas because Dean Ambrose is the lunatic.
Yeah, I like how you said it there. This is wacky Dean Ambrose. I don't like wacky Dean Ambrose. I prefer crazy, unpredictable Dean Ambrose, and we're not getting that.
Also on the card, let us chat about the Intercontinental title match. It is the four-way match with Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Kevin Owens, and champion The Miz, who, it was pointed out, a 5-time Intercontinental champion by now, Jimmy. Those numbers, they just get higher and higher, it seems. And this week, actually, marks 1 year since Kevin Owens has been on the main roster. I think this guy is just outstanding. I think he is... Him, along with AJ Styles, I think are the biggest positives week in, week out on the main roster. And I have all the faith in the world Kevin Owens can be a top guy. Not just as a heel, I think he has a babyface run in him as well eventually down the road. Right. Is this a title switch onto Owens, or do you see the title? Where do you see the title going here? Because I think Kevin Owens is the most interesting character of these four, and I don't know what is next for him after this.
No, I agree with you. Kevin Owens has been the MVP throughout this whole three-way, four-way thing that's going on. I like what they're doing, too, because they've got 3 guys in this scenario who are pretty much the guys that the hardcore internet community that really gravitate to. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Cesaro, and you've got the old stalwart from the regime in The Miz, who's probably doing some of his best work. I think the pairing with him and Maurice is working really well for him. Whether Kevin Owens takes the title here, I hope not, because I like angry, feel like he got screwed over Kevin Owens better than champion Kevin Owens, which will come down the road eventually. But I almost would like to see him get kind of, in his mind, screwed out of the title again this Sunday and just completely go off the rails, because it's going to be completely entertaining. Everything he does, from getting on commentary, is great. His interactions with all 3 of the other guys in the match has been great. So for me, he's the MVP of this. And that's no disrespect to the other 3 guys, because they're all doing well. It's just that I really, really am enjoying Kevin Owens. And I agree, this guy down the road is, to me, guaranteed money.
Yeah, and you look at the different options here. I think you certainly want Kevin Owens as one of those players for Money in the Bank next month. And not saying that winning the IC title would exclude him from that. I just think that there's a lot of options where the IC title, I think it's working with the Miz and Maurice pairing. Even the option of Sami Zayn pinning either Miz or Cesaro and winning the title, when it's Kevin Owens who beat this guy clean at Payback and holding that over him, it allows you to go back to that IC title match as well sometime down the road. Exactly,
which leads to why I would enjoy the Kevin Owens is just completely pissed off and goes off the rails again. It works. It works for Kevin Owens.
Another rematch from Payback is Charlotte and Natalya. It's a submission match with Ric Flair banned from ringside. And from all accounts, this will be their opportunity to have their big match, whether it's 15, 20 minutes. I expect it to get a lot of time, and you will get your culmination to this program. The match everyone, I think, expected at Payback, it's been delayed 3 weeks, and that's what I expect Sunday to be.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be more in line with what we saw from these two at NXT on the TakeOver special. Both are very talented. I like Charlotte's very cocky attitude now. I think she's embraced her character as being almost like better than her dad as champion. And I like that. Which
you definitely get the sense that they're either teasing a breakup or just getting rid of Ric Flair as her second at this point, with the little comments telling him to stop wooing, this is her ring.
Right.
And further to that point, a clean win over Natalya. She wins without Ric Flair there.
Right.
That might be the catalyst that they separate them, and Ric Flair maybe is off television after that.
Oh, maybe down the road, because if Charlotte beats Natalya without the help of Ric Flair, now she figures she doesn't need her dad's help in order to, continue being great. Maybe Ric Flair takes another young lady under his wing to teach her that.
Oh, yes, boy.
You know what I mean? He kind of guides someone else against Charlotte and defeats her for the title, almost like, hey, you know what? I was wooing long before you were around.
Oh, wow. So maybe Dana Brooke will have her new...
maybe we can pick someone else.
Executive consultant, Ric Flair.
I would rather go another.
Just imagine him doing Dana's poses at ringside for her. It'd be like when Rick was managing Big Dave.
Well, maybe Dana can drop an elbow on the jacket. That would be good.
Very possible. Do you any chance of a title change, or this is just Charlotte wins a wins the match.
I think Charlotte wins the match, and again, looking down the road to SummerSlam, probably somewhere, maybe Sasha Banks. That's where that program comes into effect.
United States title will feature Kalisto against Rusev. They've certainly been giving Rusev much more of a serious tone of late, coming out of the League of Nations. I guess you can call it a breakup at this point, even though depends on the week in which you tune in and they're aligned or not aligned. So we had, let's get this right, we had Rusev lose to Sin Cara 1 week, then got his win back on SmackDown. And then this past week, it was the champion Kalisto losing to Del Rio, the guy who's not a part of this match.
Right.
And now the 2 losers from the 2 weeks of Raw will battle for the title on Sunday, if I've got all that right.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, I guess. And I really do have a problem with whether it's a challenger or the champion going into matches with losses. I mean, what makes you want to see these guys battle in a match when they just come off, they get beat by guys who are not even in the match? It makes no sense to me at all. It's this whole, I guess, trying to gain sympathy for Kalisto, but at the same time, here's an opportunity to really build on something. I know that the idea was for him to be possibly the next Rey Mysterio and appeal to kids and stuff like that, but that has fallen way by the wayside. And you look at all the work that John Cena did last year building up the United States Championship and bringing it to a level where people thought, hey, man, I want to see the U.S. Championship defended. I want to see who's next. And when Del Rio came in and won the title in the fashion he did, you thought big things were ahead, and then it just took a nosedive. But there's that mountain climber from Price is Right again. Everything's looking good, and then...
Well, is the heating up of Rusev simply you get the title to Rusev, and that's John Cena's program when he comes back in a few weeks?
That's interesting. I didn't think of that. I'd like to see the title on Rusev only because here is, again, the Bulgarian, the non-American with the United States Championship. I think that works. I think that's just natural heat right there. Whether it's John Cena who challenges for it, I'd like to see somebody else actually take that spot and let Rusev have a little bit of a run with the title, defeating people. I almost see John Cena coming back and eventually working his way with Roman Reigns down the road. Maybe that's a SummerSlam match.
Well, he's also still got the Del Rio program, I think, that really wasn't all that really finished at that point when Cena had come back and then got the rotator cuff injury. So beyond that, we've also got, what else do we have left on this show to talk about? Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler is a no DQ match, which is going to be on the kickoff portion. I mean, it's just a match, and I think Baron Corbin wins clean.
Has to.
I guess this just had to be given the no DQ treatment, just cause.
Well, I'm just hope that Baron Corbin doesn't go on Facebook or Twitter and complain about being on the pre-show or anything like that. Oh,
that's right. Or have any of his merchandise that he's going to try and market on his own, such as weightlifting belts or anything of that nature. And of course, I did blank on the tag title match with the New Day against the Vaudevillains. I wouldn't rule out the idea of a title change. The New Day have had these titles a long time, and they don't really have any challengers that are really set moving forward. A title change gives them a reason to continue this. So I could see a title change. It's possible. But the New Day, certainly a very hot act, and they don't have a whole lot of challengers at this point.
No, and just when you thought that the tag team division was building up again, it's kind of like... status quo, so to speak. With the Vaudevillains, I'm actually a little impressed. I was worried about the transition and how their personas would translate.
Their transition from NXT to WWE, or from in the time machine, and the transition the audience had to make from the 1800s to the present day.
I was going to comment on the time machine, but I decided to just... I'm very entertained by the New Day. I love their most of their stuff. I will say most of their stuff, not all of it, but I love most of their stuff. The time machine thing and the effects and the Scooby-Doo thing that was going on with the weird.
If you haven't watched Raw yet, once you get to that, why don't you leap into the future past that segment?
Yeah. I wish I had a time machine on Monday night just to fast forward myself, but it didn't work for me, and. I don't know if it's just them struggling to come up with new stuff or whatever the case may be. But with that time machine thing, I almost thought that they had the call into Arthur Fonzarelli.
One final thing. A guy who is not booked for Extreme Rules, but I could very well see being thrown into a singles match late is Big Cass, who has been focused on heavily since Payback, and you can tell that they see big things in this guy.
Yes.
Running through Devon in a minute this past week, the prior week, the show was built around him challenging Jericho in the main event slot of Raw. So you can see that they're very much have high hopes for him. What have you thought of Big Cass? Because I see him in this singles role that I'm not so sure they're just going to revert back to a tag team whenever Enzo's ready to come back at this point, because I see him as a big singles project for the company, whether he's ready for it or not yet.
Well, that first week he came out as a single and got on the mic and got over. I could almost picture what was going on in Gorilla. I could just see everybody's eyes go like this. Wow. Because here's a guy who's almost 7 feet tall. He's got the look that they like. He's actually pretty good on the mic. Mind you, I didn't like this past Monday when he started referring to the
Steve Urkel stuff was awful.
and the Fred Flintstone stuff.
They've got to be careful with stuff like that, because there is a novelty phase right now where Enzo and Cass are a hot act, but you go too much in that direction, that crowd will turn on this guy with material like that, and they should have learned from Roman Reigns
exactly
what was a killer to that guy was some of the awful
tater tots
verbiage he was
and
given.
The thuffer and thuckatash, really
terrible stuff.
That's what turned a lot of fans off on Roman Reigns, and they still haven't forgiven him for that. And that's not his fault, because that's what he was given to say. And that's the same thing with Big Cass here. The only saving grace for Big Cass is he's already got the crowd on his side.
Yep.
So they may forgive him for the Urkel and the Fred Flintstone this week and maybe one more week. But if this continues, I worry that they will turn on him. Will they continue as a single with him afterwards? Eventually they will. I'm sure they see dollar signs in this guy as well. But they've also got something in that tag team. And there's a team that could rival the New Day as far as popularity in the tag team division. So it's almost like it's a good problem to have, because you've got a tag team that can be over, plus you've got this big monster that could be over on his own. And you almost think that with Enzo's charisma, even if he was to go on his own, he would still survive.
All right, well, that's our look at WWE Extreme Rules. It's coming up this Sunday night from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. You can watch it on the WWE Network, and then immediately after the show at 11 Eastern, you can tune into the Law Live Audio Wrestling and catch a full rundown of the event with Jason Agnew, Dan Lavransky, and myself. You can listen on TSN 1050 Toronto, 1410 if you're in Vancouver, and at liveaudiowrestling.com. Give this man a follow at Jimmy Korderas. He is always down for a discussion.
Absolutely.
Just don't spam tweet him, or he will get very angry.
No, I don't get angry. I just get like, it's almost like, oh, come on, really?
He's one of the most entertaining follows in all of professional wrestling, folks. At Jimmy Korderas, and we'll be back next week chatting the fallout of Extreme Rules.